I think that music is a genuine mystery. Music is one of the experiential phenomena that we all have access to. It's like looking into the night sky or at the Grand Canyon. There's something about it that seems to speak about things that are beyond the mundane. And it's an interesting thing that music can do that, because although it has this arguably transcendental element, it's also something that's very accessible to people in general. It's very rare to find someone who doesn't like music. So it's transcendental and universal at the same time. It also seems to me that music reliably speaks to people of meaning, and that the reason that music plays such a powerful role in our culture is because the meaning that music speaks of is beyond rational critique. And we're very rational and we're very intelligent, and so we've been able to make intellectual hash out of most of the things that had traditionally offered people a grounded sense of meaning. But because music is beyond rational criticism, it seems to have been able to retain its experiential connection with transcendent meaning, despite the fact that our rational mind has destroyed almost everything else that's transcendental. And part of the reason I think music can do this is precisely because it is beyond either verbal formulation or verbal criticism. So if you listen to a song, whether it has lyrics or not, you could perhaps assume that it doesn't, it does something to you. And if someone who had never heard music asked you what it did, you couldn't tell them in any way that was a reasonable summary of the experience itself. I suppose you could consider that analogous to trying to describe color to someone who's blind. Whatever music is about isn't translatable into language. Now, we can use language to augment our pleasure in music. We do that with lyrics constantly, but whatever it is that music speaks of, if it speaks of something, is not something you can speak of in words. Now, as rational people, we're also inclined to presume that if it's real, you can speak about it in words, but there have been cultures since the dawn of history believed that there were certain things that were not only unspeakable from a verbal perspective, but whose meaning was actually demolished if it was put in words. For example, in ancient Hebrew societies and in current Islam societies, it's heretical, improper to make an image of the transcendent. And the reason for that, it's not merely an arbitrary moral law, nonsensical from a rational perspective. The reason for that is that some things lose their meaning as soon as they're translated into something that's as tiny as a word. And music is one of those things. And I made this little painting here. It's about 7 feet across, actually, when I was a graduate student about 20 years ago, trying to figure out what meaning meant. And I designed the painting. I'll show you a bigger picture of it later. To be something that would kind of move when you looked at it. If you make a geometrical figure that's sufficiently complex, then when your brain looks at it, it tries on different fits, and it looks to your visual perception system as if it's moving. A Necker cube, a reversing cube, is a simple example of that. I wanted to make something here that moved and danced visually like a piece of music moves and dances. That seems to intimate something beyond itself. It's hard to do that with a static sculpture. It's hard to do that with visual arts in general. We do seem to approach it to some degree with the dance. And dance is another art form that speaks of things that are beyond words. That doesn't mean that dance is about nothing. It just means that it's about something that can't be easily put into words. Now, I actually think you can understand what music means, but there's a real problem in doing it. And the problem in understanding what music means is that it's only simple if you change the way you look at almost everything. The funny thing is that music speaks to you of meaning whether you understand it or not. And that's one of the reasons it's an imperishable art. Now, I think what music speaks to you of is real. In fact, I think it's more real than anything else. But I would also say that's not normally how people think. Okay, so that's the first part of the spiel. So I want to tell you some interesting things about perception. Now, there's this problem that's come up in the last quarter of the 20th century that was formally described by